Good morning from the Holy Land. Today we'll be speaking about Ain Od Milvado. This learning is Lilu Nishmat Shulamit Bat Chanachaya in honor of the soldiers' safety and the speedy return of our hostages, in honor of the success in Yirat Shamayim of Daniel ben Masha, Meir ben Shibolet, Eliana bat Shibolet, Nava bat Shibolet, and Kol Am Israel. So, Ella Blumenthal, a 103-year-old Holocaust survivor, speaks about understanding how to have a sense of Hashem in our hearts. That we can only withstand anything if He is with us. I wondered how the hostages and their families, or the soldiers' families, could possibly withstand the unbearable pain of what they are going through right now. I can't begin to imagine the pain. Then I remembered the feeling I had during my mother's Shiva, the 7-day period of mourning after the death of a loved one. Hashem was there with me. He gave me comfort that I couldn't imagine in my darkest time. Hashem is close to the brokenhearted. I feel it on Shabbat. I feel it during Elul. Elul is when the king is in the field. It means he comes down to us, close to us. At a concert a few weeks ago, at my favorite musician, Akiva, I was watching him sing with such an energy, and at that moment, he looked up at the sky, and I witnessed his connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. An artist has the ability to communicate a thought or a feeling through their art. And in that moment, I felt his love of Hashem. It was magical. Like through him, I could feel that connection too. Ain Od Milvado means that Hashem is everything and everywhere. That there's nothing else but Him. It is Him when you feel pure joy at a newborn baby smile. It is Him when you first experience true love. It is Him when you feel broken beyond words, and He picks you up with bringing you relief. You can see Him in everything if you learn to look. One of the hostages' mothers said that her son is not in Hamas's hands. He is in Hashem's hands. I know it's hard to contemplate suffering and loss at the hand of Hashem, but we cannot understand His ways. If everything He does is good, we can only wait for one day to understand. It is said that when Mashiach comes, Hashem will come to each and every one of us personally and explain the hardships we endured and why. I remember needing to travel to South Africa when my mother was in ICU with COVID, and flights to South Africa were forbidden because Israel had termed it or labeled it a red country at the time. I had to go, and I looked at the sky and said, Ain Od Milvado. I knew Hashem could make anything happen. So after tireless effort to apply for permission to travel to South Africa, with doctor's letters from all the crazy paperwork needed, that I was then at the airport, where more obstacles presented themselves by my father and I were told we couldn't fly because the identification number on our COVID tests did not match the numbers on our tickets, as we used our Israeli passports and not our South African passports. And again, I quietly said, Ain Od Milvado. I asked for the manager, and with tears said that my mother is in ICU and has been alone for 2 weeks, and they made some phone calls and let us through. With a delay in Ethiopia, we had a stopover. Shabbat was getting closer, and I started to think, what do I need to do if I'm going to sleep in the airport in Johannesburg for Shabbat? Again, I looked only to Hashem. I knew He wouldn't let me down. And as we landed and ran to get a taxi and arrived at the hotel by the hospital 7 minutes before Shabbat, on Saturday morning, we walked to the hospital after all of that to be told again by security that we were not allowed into the corona ward. I asked for the manager with tears again, saying, please, just 5 minutes. She's been alone for 2 weeks. And she said no. I turned to my dad, and at that moment, I wasn't saying Ain Od Milvado anymore. I think I was completely broken and exhausted by that stage. So I just said, Abba, what are we going to do? And strangely, the manager turned around and said, okay, 5 minutes, but no more. And while we were walking to the elevator, she said to me, when she heard me say Abba, her heart caved, that she also calls her father Abba. After we were fully dressed in what looked like an astronaut bodysuit from head to toe, with closed plastic headpieces, we were allowed 5 minutes. And while holding my mother's hand in that crazy suit, flooded with emotions of helplessness and exhaustion, a song kept playing in my mind. It was the 13 Attributes of Mercy. We sing it on Yom Kippur, and it was the song that for me is the closest connection I feel to my Creator. How could it be that at that moment Hashem wanted to show me that He was there? The words going over and over in my mind, like the sea washing over me, hugging me, saying, in your darkest hour, I am here with you. Like the song was drawing out my pain and comforting me. I'm not sure where this intense whirlwind that we're in right now in Israel in the year 2024 and what we've been dealing with since 2020 with the pandemic, and it just seems to be spinning faster and faster. Since our lives got onto this track and calling for us to grow and refine ourselves constantly, there seems to be no end in sight with this war. I don't think we even got a chance to recover from the pandemic's trauma when the protests started and the war. We haven't even processed October 7th, as we are still in the conflict. It's not even post-trauma, this is present trauma. And I do think that only Emunah is going to get us through this. Only holding on tightly to Hashem will help ease the difficulty. I've personally seen how prayer changes things. It might not have saved my mother when I poured my heart out, pleading for her recovery. It was her time. And she had an incredible commitment to prayer, saying the whole book of Tehillim every Shabbat with the same energy that I saw in Akiva singing. Now, more than ever, we should attach to Hashem. We do this through prayer. If you are not used to praying, take out one parak of Tehillim. Number 13 is incredibly powerful. I feel it saved my father's life. Both my parents had cancer before in their lives, and their immune systems were compromised. A month before my mother got COVID, I got this strange feeling, like this urge that I needed to say Perek 13 7 times a day. I remember taking the bus to work just so that I could have extra time to read it instead of driving. And I didn't understand why the urge was so strong, but I didn't need to understand. I just did it. And a week before my mother got sick, my dad called us and said he's coming to visit us. And he booked the ticket and was in Israel within a few days. He had to have a 7-day bidud quarantine period, and it didn't matter. He still needed to come. It was so sudden. He told us that he was coming and booked it immediately. The day he got out of quarantine here, we got the call that my mother had caught COVID. And again, it's my perspective. It could be a coincidence. It could be have nothing to do with my prayer, but it did fit into place at the time. And I like to believe that it did have something to do with him being saved. So if he had stayed in South Africa at the time, he would have caught COVID as well. And I heard of people losing both their parents to COVID at the same time, which chaz v'shalom, God forbid, is, I can't think of anything worse. So I don't know anything for sure. Again, my prayers that month possibly had something to do with it. But I feel that prayer is our lifeline to Hashem. The words in Tehillim are written by David HaMelech himself, who endured countless torturous challenges. I cannot imagine my life without those words. That book saved my life. Torah saved my life. Before, when I was not religious, I was just a lost, broken, sad soul. And 20 years later, It is the air that I breathe every day. And there are days that I cannot pray, unfortunately. And on those days, I say, Hashem, please help me pray. Without it, I just don't know how anyone can survive these crazy times in this crazy world that we are in right now. If you're able to still go to work since the war started, Baruch Hashem, if you can enjoy safety with your loved ones in our precious home Israel, then I deeply ask of you to give of yourself for everyone who has not been able to be so lucky right now. There's no way we can continue our lives as normal when so many are sacrificing for us daily. I have been to the bases and seen the stress and fear on some of these 18-year-old boys, men, in their uniform that looks too big for them and who should be at home with their families. I have been to Be'eri and seen the burnt and broken homes that echo the nightmare that took place there. I have been on the border of Gaza, and while treating soldiers, trying to not to show my terror at hearing the gunshots and the booms a few meters away, I have been to the hospitals and hospital wards and seen these tzaddikim that tell of the horror of being shot by RPGs and watching their commanders die next to them. And I ask of you now, please fight for them, even if you don't believe it works. Pick up a book of Tehillim for one chapter. Chapter 13 can take 5 minutes. In Hebrew, the word for rockets is tilim. And let's send out Tehillim to stop them. Notice how it has the addition of the H for Hashem. Let us fight together with our people, for our land, for our home. We can do something. Prayer is the highest form of giving. It is the purest form of love that we can offer. It changes us. It connects us to everything, just like Ain Od Milvado. It sticks us together with Hashem like one energy, one force. May we be blessed to have the honor of praying at this important time, the honor of being warriors of the book, fighters on the side of everything that is good, of life, of Israel, and of Hashem. Thank you.